Well, yesterday did not go according to plan for the elbows up crowd here in this country. And quite frankly, for the rest of the normal people, it was actually a very welcome sign. We see Donald Trump put a 90-day tariff pause on all nations except for China, and went after China hard and made sure to put them in his crosshair. Do you know who else didn't get a reprieve from tariffs? Well, Canada. It was fascinating. 25% tariffs still apply to our aluminum, steel, and auto sectors that aren't covered under USMCA or CUSMA. So that is still very much in play, but it was kind of welcome because it started kind of realigning, as we've been talking about, the global trading relationships. But we're not going to really touch that. What we really want to get into is Mark Carney's response. And we'll be touching on all of that in Mark Carney's response, Canadians' response to Mark Carney's response, and everything else that kind of came along with it. And what that means for us as Canadians moving forward in our relationship with our biggest trading partner. But before we get into that, if you find this valuable, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. I'm learning firsthand. If things people aren't liking, people aren't sharing, the reach of these videos don't go quite as far. Likes go a long way, sharing goes a long way, and also subscribing helps a lot. But as you do know, the people at home helped us reach 100,000 subscribers 2 days ago, and I thank you so much. And in that vein, I was looking at this the other day, and I love my Elevate Podcast Tumblr. There's only 3 of these that are made, and in celebration of our 100,000, I was debating on creating probably 250 more of these and selling them off to the first 250 people who want one. They'll be going for about $39.99. And if you have any appetite for them, and if you're interested in getting one, there is a Google form link in the description here. Feel free to click on it and put your name, put your email, how many you want, and then we'll be sure when we start looking to ship them, we will look to email you with an order form, and then we'll collect payment then and make sure it gets to you. But again, this is more of a feel it out. If you were interested, feel free to put your name down. If you're not, that's okay. I'm not offended. This is more of a, hey, we hit 100K. I'm interested in kind of making more of these. These are some of my favorite. Only 3 of these in the whole world. Maybe 250 more coming up. We'll see. Let me know what you think. But let's get into the story, shall we? Mark Carney responds to President Trump giving a 90-day tariff pause on the world. It says the pause on the reciprocal tariffs announced by President Trump is a welcome reprieve from the global economy. As President Trump and I have agreed, the U.S. President and the Canadian Prime Minister will commence negotiations on a new economic and security relationship immediately following the federal election. As part of today's announcement, the President has signaled that the U.S. will engage in bilateral negotiations with a number of other countries. This will likely result in a fundamental restructuring of the global trading system. In that context, Canada must also continue to deepen its relationships with trading partners that share our values, including the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. This election is importantly about who can best fight for Canada, families, workers, and businesses at the negotiating tables with the United States and other potential partner countries. The stakes have never been higher. I'm working hard to earn that responsibility to protect our country through the crisis and to build Canada strong. And it was really kind of funny because you knew this was not welcome news for Carney and his campaign, because we've seen how they've been leveraging the fear, the doubt, the cynicism around our relationship with the United States. The chart and the graphic that was going around all social media yesterday, and you've probably already seen it because I know Moose on the Loose shared it. Jasmine Lane, who's the one who posted it, also shared it on her channel. But this little graphic that got posted by Fox News. You know, Fox News that, Mark Carney was mocking the other day? Yeah. Trump tariff response. A list of the countries who are trying to negotiate with the U.S. Group of countries who have offered concessions with the U.S. The group of countries who have retaliated. The group of nations who are thinking about possibly retaliating. And then the one sole country who has not retaliated one bit, and that is Mexico. Funny, the 2 countries that have retaliated are China and Canada. That will tell you everything you need to know. We have an unserious political class in this country, and I already know it. I can hear the liberals now, but he said he's gonna make us the 51st state. Yeah, again, you have been utterly lied to, and the media has been weaponized to make you believe that, and the liberals have used the media as a beautiful little fiddle to tell you that story and get you to believe it. Do you know how that story came about? Do you remember how that story came about? Let's go through the timeline, shall we? Trump becomes president. He's hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. Trudeau goes down to Mar-a-Lago, misrepresenting our whole trading relationship with the United States, and then leaves Trump under the impression that we're ripping them off. which wasn't the case. He's like, well, if you're going to rip us off and you get our defense and you don't provide us anything, then you may as well become a 51st state. And it became a joke. And it was a joke. And then it became a form of trolling. And then it started getting a little more serious because Trudeau saw it and the Liberals saw it. And they're just like, oh, we can weaponize this. And do you remember the hot mic moment where he said, oh, Trudeau was talking to a group of people, didn't realize his mic was on, quote unquote. And he was telling me, yep, the 51st state threat is very, very, very real. And then bedlam ensued in our country. And that became the rhetoric. Trump wants to take us over. He's going to own us. He's going to bum. And before you know it, the whole country believes that Trump is going to take us over. The Liberals are using it as a weapon to maintain power. And that is the only thing that they have been running on. They said, we're going to retaliate with tariffs because it's going to be elbows up and we are going to make sure we fight for our country. So that's why we have to have retaliatory tariffs. And shows like ours, shows like Jasmine Lane, Clyde, Moose on the Loose have all been shouting from the rooftops. Please don't do that. This is not the way to go about it. You're not going to win this battle. We're not going to prove anything to anybody. And we all know it. Please just get to the negotiation table and work something out like grown adults. But no, it was, we're going to have retaliatory tariffs. And now we have graphics like this showing up, looking like fools. What's been going on? Well, we've been talking about foreign election interference. What's been going on? Oh, finding out Carney's being bought off by China. What's been going on? Oh, the Liberal Party as a whole is bought off by China. Okay, what else do we know? Oh, Justin Trudeau was also bought off by the CCP. That is where we are currently at. We are making ourselves enemies of our greatest trading partner because we choose to have ties to China. And we are going to choose China over the United States. Look at Carney's second last paragraph here, or third last paragraph. In that context, Canada must also continue to deepen its relationships with trading partners that share our values, including the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. You realize there's nothing actually about true Western values here. It's all about what you can get. It's all about business. Nothing about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, free to be who you want to be. Nope, just exchange of goods, services, and ideas. Well, I don't know what ideas he's talking about. This man right here shows that it's all just a business transaction to him. Even Ron Butler came in hot, says somehow the elbows up crap from Carney ended up sticking Canada right in the rear end. As of right now, China and Canada are the only countries on earth affected by US tariffs. Is Carney really the master negotiator? And Ron is not wrong. We are looking like absolute fools right now because we have a Liberal Party who played to the emotions and fears and insecurities of Canadians, sold it like it was reality, and now look how dumb we look on the global stage. We look like absolute fools. But guess what? We showed them. We took bourbon off the shelves. Whew. Got them. There was only one politician in this country who was thinking critically and thinking effectively and thinking with diplomacy, and that was Danielle Smith. And they just didn't want to take that approach with America because it was politically convenient. There was something that came up the other day. Actually, it came up yesterday. A release of an interview with Chamath on Andrew Schulz, who is a billionaire, worked in several different companies, knows how manufacturing works, knows how global systems work, knows how global banking works. All the same resume of a Mark Carney. That was him, and he hopped on and really gave a little bit more clarity of what Trump is trying to do with these tariffs. And Adam Oxen did a really thoughtful thread involving this podcast, who is an oil and gas guy, energy guy in Oklahoma. And he kind of broke down what's really happening. So here it is. He quotes Chamath, saying, "This isn't about a trade war. This is about completely rebuilding American industrial capacity." Chamath points to a critical fact. Since 2000, we've lost 5 million manufacturing jobs. But there's a deeper story here, and there's 1 minute from this clip.
Critical market where America needs to be able to take care of itself, right? Under all weather conditions, we have become very fragile. So tariffs have this dual-pronged impact. Prong number one is it starts to realign the world order. But prong number two is that it allows us to start taking back control of a lot of these markets so that we do the hard work so that we can rely on ourselves. Otherwise, if something bad were to happen, there's like a lot of really bad outcomes here where we cannot fend for ourselves. We can't make the vaccines we need, okay? We can't make the technological equipment we need. We can't make the computers we need. We can't make the chips we need.
And Oxen goes on here. Says the trade relationship with China has been fundamentally unbalanced for decades. American products face steep tariffs in China, often 25% plus, while Chinese goods entered the US with minimal barriers, usually under 3%. This created a one-way flow of manufacturing capacity. The result? Our industrial heartland hollowed out, communities collapsed, the middle class saw their economic security vanish, all while corporate profits soared to record highs. And the question is, who actually benefited? According to Chamath, the main beneficiaries weren't the average citizen. Quote, the way that we have set up trade has benefited corporations at the expense of people. They captured profits by paying minimal taxes, avoiding environmental regulations, and cutting labor costs.
So let's just say, 5 or 10 million Americans absolutely crushed it over the last 25 years with globalism and trade. But that still leaves 325 million Americans that haven't. And so you have to right this ship. That's one. The second thing, though, is you saw this in COVID. America is totally unprepared to fend for herself if push came to shove. We can't make things here anymore. We have kids that can make TikToks, but we don't have scientists that can make drugs.
And that is a reality that we are also facing here in Canada. I want to pause there for a second because, yes, we're talking about the American context here. What is Trump trying to do? What is happening with the middle class? What is happening with the working class in America? The reason why I want to hit all this is because we are facing all the same issues here in Canada, and we have a decision to make come election time. I continue in the thread. Adam says America became reliant on foreign nations for critical goods. The pandemic exposed this when we couldn't produce basic PPE. Ukraine revealed our energy dependence. Taiwan highlighted our semiconductor reliance. This isn't just economics, it's national security. And these tariffs could generate up to $750 billion annually, enough to offset a significant portion of income taxes for middle-class Americans. Companies face a choice, pay tariffs or bring production home. The implications are massive. And here's again, Chamath expanding on that idea.
Year one is difficult, okay? But it could raise upwards of $750 billion a year, okay?
You're saying tariffs.
Tariffs. What they said that they would do is they would then turn around and cut the federal
income tax.
Yeah. For anybody making $150,000 or less to zero.
So what they're doing is using the tariffs to offset the price shock.
It's an interesting strategy. Adam continues, quote, this is a massive wealth redistribution mechanism from corporations back to the middle class. If companies reshore manufacturing, communities revive, national security improves, supply chains become resilient, new factories create high-paying jobs. And the most fascinating part of Chamath's analysis, how this transforms global trade alliances. Trump's approach isn't isolation, it's leverage. Countries aligning with American interests gain preferential trade terms. Chamath calls this economic NATO. We need economic NATO as we need a military NATO. Nations cooperating on security, supply chains, and fair trade would form a new bloc, creating incentives for countries to side with America. Those that don't face tariffs, it's using economic power as leverage. And I thought this was such a brilliant breakdown of what we are watching with Donald Trump. People who don't understand macroeconomics, who don't understand global trading, who don't understand kind of interrelationships between countries, can look at what Donald Trump is doing and think it's absolutely psychotic. The stock market is completely plunged. People have lost thousands upon hundreds of thousands of dollars in their savings and their retirement. And it is very scary for the regular person. But what we are witnessing is a realignment globally. And what's stated here is an effort to bring buying power back to the middle class and the regular day person. What did we see in COVID? We actually witnessed the biggest wealth transfer in history from the middle class to the corporations. Remember how painful COVID was? It was a lot. It was a different type of pain. Well, Trump's now trying to reverse what happened in COVID and reverse what's happened over the past 15 years and bring power back to the middle class. It's going to be painful, but he believes the end result, if it works, will make Americans better off. And it brings me back to Canada. What has Trump's tariff threats done in this election? What has been the talks? Oh, talks have been pipelines. Talks have been building our own infrastructure. Talks have been how we stand on our own 2 feet in Canada. Talks of how we're going to rebuild our military. Talks of how we're going to protect ourselves. Talks of how we're going to take down interprovincial trade barriers. Everything, all the talk has been whether you believe the candidate or you don't believe them. At least the talk has been about how Canada is going to become self-reliant. That is the Trump effect. He is forcing all these nations through these tariff threats and placing tariffs on countries to force them to stand on their own 2 feet and identify their nationalism again. So we can say screw off to people like Trudeau, who said Canada's a post-nationalist state. We are restoring nationalism, whether it's fake from the Liberals or whether it's real from the Conservatives. Right now, that's been the focus of this election. And now you have to ask, who is playing Canadian and who is Canadian? And that is what we are witnessing. Because what we're currently watching is the Liberals leveraging this tension with the United States into trying to get votes. And it's all feign and it's fake. As we saw Ian Bremmer, which reminds you of that article he wrote in Zero Media, which, if you remember, is the media arm of the Eurasia Group, which Diana Fox is a part of, Gerald Butts is a part of, who are all connected to the Liberal Party of Canada, and Mark Carney, Diana Fox is his wife. But remember, Ian Bremmer says this: America's largest trade partners, Mexico and Canada, are facing more significant trade pressures from the Trump administration, but the imbalance of power is such that they have no credible strategy to push back. Everyone understands they'll have to accept Trump's terms eventually. The only question is whether capitulation comes before or after a costly fight. Riding an 85% job approval Mexican president has enough domestic political space to yield to Trump's demands to keep Mexico in his good graces, as she's already doing. By contrast, Canadian leaders have a political incentive to put up a bigger fight because Trump's threats towards Canada's economy and sovereignty have sharply inflamed nationalist sentiment north of the border in the run-up to the April 28th elections. So Ian Bremmer, who is close to Mark Carney, close to Diana Fox, close to the Liberal campaign, is saying all this is fake. It's Fugazi. The elbows up is all going away if Mark Carney gets in. They're going to capitulate right away and do whatever Trump asks. So them talking about they're going to fight Donald Trump, it's fake news. People just trying to act tough. That's all it is. And even more proof, Vashti talked about today when she was talking to Nick Nanos about the polls. And listen to this and what she had to say. It's very fascinating.
Numbers, those brand new numbers just out, show this narrowing gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives. 4 points now. What do you attribute this to?
Well, like you, I've spoken to Nick Nanos, where this polling comes from in Nanos Research, and he said essentially every time there's an event that involves U.S. President Donald Trump, and then Mark Carney is responding in his capacity as prime minister, not in his capacity as Liberal leader, the Liberals see a kind of surge of sorts, and then it settles back down as that recedes from being kind of the dominant storyline or the only, I guess I should say, storyline, and as Mark Carney is on more even footing with the leaders of the other parties. So I think it's reflective basically of the point of the week that we're in and the point of the campaign we're in. And this was always a very competitive race. It's just that the momentum, according to public opinion polls in the aggregate, happened to be with the Liberals because they came rather from so far behind 2 months ago, right up to where the Conservatives were, and then started surpassing them.
But that's the point everyone's seeing. Anytime Trump is in the headlines, Liberals hit a surge. Anytime Trump goes away, Liberals come back down, Conservatives rise. It's all a fugazi, it's all a show, and it's all about maintaining power. Remember, I've said it multiple times. The Liberals have no real platform. It's always about how they can fight Trump. And when that goes away, as we're currently witnessing, the appetite for voting in a Liberal government automatically goes away because then people are reminded that they have affordability issues they want to address. They want a party that's going to address crime. They want a party that's going to address immigration. They want a party who's going to address the working class. They want a party who's going to address the serious issues that people are truly feeling. And they know the party of the last 10 years won't actually fix it. But anyways, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.